Good morning, Upper School. Welcome to another assembly at the end of a very busy week. I hope you and your family are all well and that you're looking forward to a relaxing and well-earned weekend. It has been another fantastic week of online learning. This week we saw another increase in the number of live streamed lessons happening, with Year 8 being the final year group to begin their lessons on MS Teams. This means that the whole school is now taking part in online lessons. Engagement has continued to increase this week as well, as many of you have shown the humility to realise how important it is to take this opportunity and also the courage to overcome the challenges of online learning. So in Year 11, over 80% of students this week took part in online lessons. That is a fantastic achievement, especially considering the technical challenges that are involved. However, if we look at these numbers, there is still more to do, because although 80% of you took part, the average number of lessons that was completed was only 52%. And it's a very similar story in Year 10. A whopping 84% of Year 10 students took part in some lessons this week. However, on average, you only completed 48% of all of your lessons. This means that in both year groups, we are still picking and choosing which lessons we complete. And that means we're only making most of half of the opportunity that's there for us. So I'm setting you a challenge this week to get that lesson completion number up to 75% by the end of next week. I have absolutely no doubt that you can do this. Online learning is brand new to all of us as a school, and we're always looking for ways to improve. So in light of this, I'm going to change the next few changes that we've made to improve. The first thing we've done is to introduce a virtual form of tutor time. Ark Boulton is a community built on strong relationships. We've missed spending time with you outside of the classroom, and we know that you're really missing each other. To help to maintain this sense of community, we have introduced virtual tutor time. So every day at 8:30, you'll meet in form groups with your personal tutor to hear messages of the day, to share shout-outs and good news, as well as sharing your thoughts and opinions on a wide range of interesting topics linked to our weekly virtue. Form time is also an important opportunity for you to check in with your tutor at the start of the day and help to get any problems sorted that you might be facing. It's also when the register for the day will be taken, so attendance is not optional, and the welfare team will be making late phone calls from 8:30 every morning. So it's vital that you're there on time, or you may get a ring. Your tutors have loved welcoming so many of you over the last 2 days, and we really look forward to seeing every single one of you bright and early on Monday morning. Over the last 4 weeks, we've introduced more and more live streamed lessons, so that now the entire academy is having lessons streamed via MS Teams. From Monday, all year groups will have 4 online lessons every day: Period 1, Period 2, Period 3 and Period 4, following your normal school timetable. This is a massive achievement, and I know how much you appreciate the hard work that your teachers have put in to make this happen. However, we are also aware that with 40-minute lessons, it can be difficult for you to complete your Do Not Disturb tasks to the highest standard possible. So to support you with this, you will no longer be expected to complete your timetabled lesson Period 5 each day. Period 5 is now a time for you to review the day's learning and complete any missed exit tickets, finish off your Do Not Disturb tasks, and importantly, upload all of your Do Not Disturb assignments to your class teams. So Period 5 is no longer a lesson in itself. It's a time for you to catch up on all of the work that you've done throughout the day and make sure it's of the highest possible quality. So Periods 1, 2, 3 and 4 will follow your school timetable as usual. We realise that this will mean that you may have fewer lessons in some subjects if you have them normally in Period 5. Don't panic. This will all be addressed to make sure that that subject isn't penalised and you don't miss out on learning. So we are still receiving several emails every single day asking questions about IT, which we've already answered in these assemblies and in our how-to videos on the Online Academy. I know that this can be confusing, but please make sure that you check the how-to section before calling or emailing, because it will usually solve your problem and happen much more quickly than we are able to get back to you. If you do need extra support with IT problems or any other issues, you need to email your year group support email, which is up on the screen there. So again, as we said last week, a team of people will be monitoring this email address and will deal with your issues as soon as possible. This is going to be the most effective way of you getting support. So rather than emailing the whole school or calling the office, the best thing to do is to email your year group. So in your year 10, it's year 10 support at arkboulton.org. If you're in year 11, it's year 11 support at arkboulton.org. This will be the quickest way of getting your issues sorted. As we continue to develop our online skills, each week in Assembly we're looking at how to improve one element of our virtual toolkit. Last week's Assembly we looked at how to write formal emails, and I've got to say I've been genuinely pleased to see a real improvement in the quality of correspondence that I've been receiving personally. And I know from talking to your other teachers that they've really appreciated the clarity and positivity of your emails, so keep it up. If you missed last week's Assembly, a guide to writing great emails is on the how-to section of the Ark Boulton Virtual Academy. This week, we're going to talk about the MS Teams chat. Using the chat function in your lessons is a really important way of engaging with your work and with your teacher. It allows you to ask and answer questions and get immediate feedback from that member of staff. However, it's very important that we are using the chat correctly. So here are some simple rules that you need to follow. Things that you should do with the chat. Firstly, you should use the chat function during lesson times only. This is not a private messenger service for you to be using to contact your friends. This is specifically for your lessons and for your learning. So the only time that you should be using chat function is whilst you are in the lesson with your teacher. When the lesson ends, you leave the chat and you move on with your next lesson. Second thing, you should be using the chat to ask your teacher questions that are directly linked to your learning. You should be using your chat to answer questions every time that you are directed to. Just as in a lesson, if your teacher asks you a question and asks you to put something in a chat, you wouldn't simply ignore them. Manners dictates that we respond. As always, we have courage and we do our best. So even if you feel like you don't know the answer, you don't just sit there in silence. Make sure you answer your best attempt in the chat. You should be listening carefully to exactly how your teacher wants you to use the chat. Sometimes your teachers will ask specific people to write things in the chat, or they might ask you to type something but not enter it. So you need to listen really carefully to what your teacher is saying. Every time you write something in the chat, you must use full sentences, you should use correct spelling and formal English. This is a chance for you to practice your written skills. And another thing you should all do is to reread what you've typed before pressing enter. You need to check that it's correct, you need to check that it is appropriate, and you need to check that it is directly relevant to what you're doing in that lesson. Some simple things that you should not do. Don't shout out. Just as in the classroom, if your teacher asks a specific person a question, you wouldn't shout out at them. Wait until the appropriate moment to ask your questions, or until you've been asked to give an answer. Do not add emojis, GIFs, or images to the chat. Generally speaking, this ability has been disabled in all of the chats, but if you discover that you can, just don't. It's not the place for it. Don't use slang or inappropriate language. Whatever is happening in the lesson, if there are technical issues and it feels like your teacher's dropped off, that is not a reason for you to start then having a conversation with your classmates or to start using inappropriate language. Make sure that you keep it classroom appropriate at all times. And again, as I said, this is not a chat function. This is not a general conversation function for chats with your classmates. The chat is for your lesson work only. So remember that your entire chat log can be downloaded by school. I have access to every single chat in the school and can download it and see what everyone has written. We can see literally everything that you have typed into a chat anywhere on MS Teams since you set up your account and started using it. So just like at school, we're in a professional environment and we need to act accordingly. Where the chat is used inappropriately, as it has very occasionally been done, swift measures will be taken and there will be consequences to that. I just want to give you a quick reminder about the Birmingham Children's Partnership support, which I introduced to you last week. There is a whole list of support that this group of charities and teams can provide to you and your family. So have a look at the slide. If there's anything there that you think is something that your family would benefit from, please pause the video, get the link, and get onto the website. Alternatively, if you'd like to be put in touch, contact the school using your year group email address, and we'll pass you on to the appropriate people. Another thing that I need to discuss with you, or remind you of rather, is appropriate Chromebook use. It is absolutely amazing that we've been able to offer every single student in the upper school a Chromebook to use at home. And I've got to say, the vast majority of you are following that homeschool agreement perfectly. However, I do need to remind you that these Chromebooks belong to the school and are being lent to you to help you to access your learning. And they're to be used for educational purposes only. As you were told when you accepted the offer and you signed the homeschool agreement, the laptops are all being monitored by Ark. And a timestamped log is kept of every website you visit and every app you download. If you look on the screen there, you can see this is the agreement that pops up in the bottom of your Chromebook, and it tells you that your device is being managed by Ark Online, and specifically that your personal account is managed by Ark Boulton. So these are all of the things that we're able to see. We can see who's used the device and when it's being used. We can see the device statistics, so we can see how much storage you're using. We can see what processing you're doing. We can see your network addresses, so we can see every single email that you've ever accessed on the device. We know who is using the Chromebook because we can see your username. We know what extensions you're installing, so what apps you're downloading onto the system, and specifically which Google Play apps you have installed. So there's a huge amount of monitoring that the system does automatically when you're using your Chromebooks. The purpose of this is simply to keep you safe. There's also a very sensitive alert system which notifies our IT team whenever a Chromebook accesses a website or an app that is not appropriate for school. Now, this doesn't mean that you can only use the Chromebook for MS Teams or the Ark Boulton Virtual Academy, but you do need to be very careful about the content that you are accessing. I suggest that the best way you think about it is this. If you wouldn't access something on your computer whilst your form tutor was standing behind you, then don't access it on your Chromebook at home. And that includes any social media, online games, and I would just avoid downloading any apps. These laptops were given to you to support you with your learning, and they are a privilege. If you're seen to be using your Chromebook in a way that breaks the terms of the agreement that you signed when you accepted the offer, we will simply take the Chromebook back. So, this brings us on to this week's message. So as you know, each week we are focusing on one of our virtues. And this week, or rather the next week, we're going to be thinking about the virtue of gratitude, which is feeling and expressing thanks for benefits that we enjoy. Now, I'm sure that you've all heard the sad news that Sir Captain Tom Moore died this week at the age of 100. Sir Tom became famous during the first lockdown as a 99-year-old for walking 100 lengths of his garden in order to raise money for the NHS after he was treated in hospital. His initial plan was to raise £1,000 for the NHS before his 100th birthday. By the time of his death, Sir Tom had raised almost £33 million. We're going to watch a short tribute now to remember the amazing man. Sir Tom was... Our virtuous code of conduct for home learning tells us that one way that we can practice gratitude is by using our journal to record all of the things that we're grateful for. So let's practice this now. I'd like you to pause the video and spend 2 minutes writing a list of all the things that you're grateful for into your journal. Do that now. Miss Assey wanted to give a shout out to Hamira for showing self-discipline in completing the electron configuration of all 20 elements and spotting the pattern. So well done, Hamira, you're clearly engaging brilliantly with your online learning. Mr. Wood wanted to share a shout out for Galal for excellent commitment to the work produced in lessons, being committed to answering questions and learning from his mistakes. Outstanding work from you, Galal, as well. Keep it up. And Miss Fisher again wanted to give a shout out to Zainab for always being punctual to live lessons and completing the virtual lessons. You're showing courage by always answering questions in live lessons and engaging at all times. Thank you to all of those people who have received shout outs, and there were many, many more of you. You're an inspiration to all of us and providing an excellent example to everyone at Ark Boulton. So, have a fantastic and restful weekend, and I really look forward to seeing you all bright and early at 8:30 in your tutor time on Monday.